Hey, folks, welcome in. I'm sure nobody is actually here yet. Oh, kicking my light. I was not ready for this, by the way. So I apologize. I was not quite ready. So topics for today, because this is going to actually probably get turned into a regular video for Saturday. I'll just edit in place. Uh, First one, gear weight. How much stuff you're carrying in any kind of emergency situation. We're not talking military. We're not talking police. This could be as simple as camping. This could be, training setup. This could be your shit hits the fan kind of stuff. This could be just, there's a tornado in your area and you're going to help. Um, how much stuff, and then wearing it in non-training scenarios. You're not just going to the range and standing there and shooting, and then you take it off for lunch wearing it. And then some talking about some comparisons in the industry. Aimpoints. I've been looking at a lot of optics lately, and I am constantly surprised by how bad some of the supposedly premium optics are. Now, don't get me wrong, some of them are absolutely outstanding. And sometimes the premium part isn't the optical clarity, it's the durability, it's certain key features, and they have them. I'm not saying that they're not living up to their intended role. But we sometimes forget that optical clarity has improved drastically in the last 20 years. That optics that were high end, relatively speaking, $1,000 range, 10, 15 years ago are easily replicated optic quality wise today for half or less than that. And then Glock Bite, because I am fighting with myself over whether or not I should buy a Shadow Systems frame and rebuild my P80 on their frame. And the answer really is I should do it, but I'm probably not going to do it just because of the cost. Um, yeah, I'm looking at a couple $100 for the frame. And then if I'm going to do it, I really ought to at least upgrade the trigger to a basic non-OEM trigger. And I need a new barrel. The barrel in that gun is shitty. And if I'm doing that, I should also do the sights, because I have very basic sights on mine. I have a green dot and no dot in the back. No, not even a figure 8 dot. There's nothing. And I mean, for its intended role as a project and as a tuck it away for emergencies kind of thing, it meets its needs. The thing has worked great. When I worked out the issue with the slide release, done. I have not had any problems with it, but it could be better. And I get Glock Bite, and that's not a P80 problem. That's a Glock problem. And Gucci Glock companies have fixed this. So we'll get into that. Going back to the first topic, the saving weight. I see a lot of marketing. Part of what I do for work is deal with all of the hype, because people come in and ask about stuff, and I'm constantly paying attention to it. For this, I'm paying attention to it. And I am generally not convinced that most of this stuff has a need. I'm not saying it doesn't have value. I'm not saying it doesn't have a place. But 90% of the time, you need very little. You want more. It would make your life easier in a given specific moment to have the specific ideal tool. But you then have to carry it. You have to, account for it in terms of space. You have to keep an eye on it. If you are in an emergency environment, things walk. If you put down tools or equipment and you walk away for 10 minutes, it will not be there. It will be long gone. So you have to maintain it either on your body or locked up somehow. Well, at some point, you have to draw the line, right? I mean, well, how much is too much? And the older I get, the more I realize that the answer really is the most important thing you've got is your brain. Everything else you can improvise, or you can make do until you can get a hold of the proper item. Because, for example, you need a ladder of a certain height. Well, do you? Or can you get the job done? It'll just take you a little longer. Do you need, could you rent the ladder, for example? Non-emergency situation, but like you need a ladder of a certain height. Do you have to own that 20-foot ladder, or could you just rent one for the weekend? Now, in an emergency situation, the key things are life-saving gear, whether it's protection of life or maintenance of life. First aid gear, things like that for maintenance of life, and protection is either armor or firepower. Maybe you could put your knife into that category, but I think that if you're defending yourself with a knife, you fucked up so badly that whatever you've got is what you've got. Let's face it, if you're in a knife fight, you've already lost the gunfight, the stick fight, the kick fight. Like you've gone all the way down the rabbit hole to you are up close and personal. You should have, thought this out better. Because yes, a stick beats knife. So yeah, shaving off weight on your gear is critical. It gets hot, it gets cold, it gets tiring. Having more stuff just exacerbates the problem. There's a reason people spend big money on lighter armor plates. Now apply this to everything else. Even if you're not wearing the armor plates, how much other stuff are you carrying? I was talking to a guy who's like, yeah, my bug out bag has 400 rounds of ammo. And I'm like, you're like, right, he was talking rifle ammo. That was separate from the pistol ammo. Like, what are you going to do with 400 rounds of ammo that you wouldn't have been better off carrying more other stuff or not carrying it? Now, don't get me wrong. Part of the discussion was that he was younger, physically in great shape, and he did look at it as the ammo is going to be one of the earlier things that gets dropped if the weight becomes a factor. But like how many rounds are you going to shoot before it was time to run away or the fight was over? Because in a bug out situation, your job is not to engage in running gunfights. Your job is to get the hell out. If your job is to engage in running gunfights, hopefully you have a logistics tail. And yes, you are going to carry more ammo and you're going to use that ammo and replenish. But if you have to carry it, figure out how little you can get away with. How many things can that tool do double duty for? A good multi-tool covers a lot of sins. A good multi-tool might replace your pocket knife too. It can replace a lot of things. A little bit of paracord versus having climbing rope and rope for this and that and 5 other things and retention straps and 50 feet of paracord and maybe a couple of the shark bite clips for it. You can make a lot happen. But yeah, which leads right into the next thing, which is actually wear your gear and do stuff in it. It is amazing what a difference it is from the range and making lunch, sitting down and eating, driving a vehicle. These are not things we normally do unless you are in that business in soft armor, much less hard armor, with a belt full of gear. And you will very quickly find that the gear that was perfectly fine, absolutely great standing up, even running around at the range, or even kneeling down at the range, or even going prone on the range. Not so great sitting down, just having a meal or having a conversation. And I think that this is something that gets overlooked a lot. You don't even see it in advertising. You don't even see it on, other YouTube videos. They're always standing. And you look at their gear and you're like, well, if you sit down, that's all going to jab you, it's all going to be smacking into each other. You can't physically sit down in that gear without rearranging everything every time. And most soldiers figure this out, I'm sure. Most military equipment is designed to allow for this because you do have to sit down. But you're probably sitting down in equipment that minimal cushioning usually, right? So if you sit down in a normal chair, there's something right behind you. There's lumbar support. My experience with most military vehicles, not designed as fighter planes, it's not an aircraft seat or anything like that. It's a passenger vehicle. There's no lumbar support. There's nothing because your gear has to fit there. Your pouches and things around your middle have to fit in that space. Well, if you go sit down in your personal vehicle, not so much. If you sit down in your office chair, I mean, this chair is uncomfortable with too much gear or gear that is not properly placed. If you are not skinny, wearing your gear and sitting down can be awkward. If your plate carrier sits too low and you wear anything on your belt, it can be awkward. These are just things to mess with and experiment with when it isn't life or death, when it isn't a choice of, well, if I take my plate carrier off while I'm eating lunch, I may need it in a hurry. Well, figure that out when you're not going to need it in a hurry. When the worst that happens is the training class sits and laughs at you while you get into your gear and they're already ready. Particularly if you're doing a belt with magazines on it and then a plate carrier, it gets in the way. You got to kind of juggle what's where. And what I found is I wear the plate carrier pretty minimalistic, and then more of it is on the belt, but even then, minimal. You guys have seen my stuff. Like I keep updating you as I go. At this point, my soft carrier has nothing on the face, and because of the cummerbund pouches, it's elastic, right? I've got one rifle mag, and a flashlight. That's it on that plate carrier. That's my soft rig. And then maybe I've got the belt on, maybe I don't. The hard rig is 3 mags across the chest, and that's it. That's all is on it. Everything else is on the belt. And even on the belt, I'm not carrying extended magazines. I'm not carrying, 25 round or 30 round pistol magazines. I'm carrying regular capacity, 15s or 17s, depending on the gun. The reason for that is simple. I would like more ammo, but I don't want it hitting the bottom of the plate carrier. I don't want it getting in the way. I want to be able to lean over. I want to be able to crouch down easily. I can do that with 30 round mags in the belt pouch for the rifle, but I've only got 1 now. I'm down to 1 on the belt. And the reason is simple. I got skinnier, and the second rifle mag got far enough back on my body that it was annoying. When I went to sit down, it was annoying. I know. Damn loss, weight loss is a problem. By the way, on that front, I'm down to like a 33 from 36/37. Liking it. So far, so good. Physically can't see it, like on my torso. I can't tell. Maybe if I went and saw a friend that I hadn't seen in a year, they could tell. But my pants don't lie. My belts don't lie. Because the 34s I bought as I was losing weight, there's now wiggle room like they're slipping. And yeah, yeah, I got to go find some 33s. Probably going to buy one pair and, see where I stop. Keep juggling along. I have some dress pants in 34 if I have to, go out and look nice. So still okay there. They were just snug when I was a 36. Just suck it up and deal, literally. So the next topic is I looked through one of my not holy grail optics, but like I would love to spend the money on one, but I can't justify it, and never had the opportunity to look through one in a controlled environment. It was always like real quick at the range, take a shot kind of thing, and I didn't have a comparison point. And I was given the opportunity to look through an H1. And if you're familiar with the series, that's an Aimpoint H1 is the first generation civilian microdot. And the problem with this is that they improve the actual optics. The H1, H2, T1, T2, the actual glass quality is basically the same. And what I found was it was disappointing. It was fuzzy enough that what I could read looking with my bare eyes across the room, I couldn't read with the optic in front of me. It did have noticeable light cutoff, light transmission reduction, and the dot was not any sharper than cheaper red dots I played with. And to some extent, that is my eyes, absolutely. But not all red dots do it for me. So it must be something about the particular type of emitter that my eyes don't particularly like. A little starring, I'm seeing like 5 little dots all overlapping, and it's not a perfect circle or even close to being a perfect circle. Now, don't get me wrong. If you turn the brightness way down, it's a pinpoint dot. If you turn it down that far and you're in a hurry, you can't find the dot fast enough. So at a functional brightness level, it's a little not perfect. But functionally work, like in use, no problem. But I was not horribly impressed. I thought that it was not any better than my basic primary arms advanced microdot. Not even the latest and greatest that they've gotten these days. It certainly was not as nice as my 2X, my gold 2X. So yeah, this is a $800 optic these days. And at this point, I wouldn't buy one. Let's put it that way. The only reason I would buy one would be if I had the money to burn, and my goal was I want a small red dot that is as tough as possible. And I also did like, I gotta say, they put the illumination dial on the right-hand side, so it isn't against your body. Sorry, lefties. That is something I liked. And don't get me wrong, it wasn't bad. It was perfectly good. It was just that it wasn't noticeably better than the $200 option, right? Like we've more than tripled the money, and it wasn't noticeably better. Now, is it tougher? I'm going to go with yeah. I mean, even Primary Arms doesn't consider that product line professional tough. But on the other hand, I beat the crap out of mine. 2 of them now. They both work. I threw out my original one because it was one of the ones that had a hole in it from the bottom. They were drilled all the way through. And when I was moving, I was like, you know what? I don't need it. It is a defective one. And I don't like the battery life. It was one of the ones with the lower battery life originally. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna stick to my new one. And if it comes up, I'll buy another one, right? So yeah. Before you spend real money on this stuff, go actually look through it. Go look at it. I think there's a lot of stuff out there that the more expensive one isn't always the better one. And that is true of even like the work sharpeners. when I first looked at the little handheld things and I go, what the hell? Like, how is that going to be good? Like, that's going to be like a real, oh shit, I'm in the woods kind of thing. Like, eh. And then I used one a couple times. And I used it a couple more times. And then was swapping out which pocket knife I was wearing to work to sharpen all my pocket knives on one at work. We have all the electronic, work sharp machines. We have the beautiful stones. We have like anything you could want to use. And I'm using the little handheld, yeah. And so I bought them and I'm giving one away. And if you haven't watched that video, it's my prior video. It says, plus giveaway, and go comment in that video, because if you don't comment in that video, you're not in the giveaway. So that's the deal. Go watch the video, please, but you have to comment on that video. It tells you in the video when you're watching it. So, but yeah. Things like the EOTechs. I was not a huge EOTech fan, even having looked through them, until I looked through it in combination with the magnifier. Suddenly I was like, oh, there's something about it that made this way more attractive in that combination than it had ever been for me. And I had never used one with a magnifier. I used one without a magnifier and was like, whatever. I like the field of view through it, but I shoot both eyes open on that kind of system anyway. The field of view through it is kind of irrelevant. I'm seeing everything. I'm not one of those people that like the dot superimposes in your view and you don't even like see the scope. Like I see through the scope, but I'm still seeing everything. I still got my peripheral vision, right? I've got both eyes open and my brain is still scanning. So as I lose 2 viewers to go watch the other video and comment, I'm sure I'm going to bet that in a couple minutes, I'm going to see my email pop up that I got comments. Speaking of which, if anybody wants to chime in here, like the whole point of the lives is that you guys can talk. You can comment, like we can have a discussion. We're at 22 minutes. I'm going to hope to keep this one to under an hour or around an hour, because I do want to make food and then, do other stuff this evening. It is Thursday night, which is not quite Friday night, but, might go out. Maybe there's a new brewery I want to check out. I don't drink a whole lot of beer, but, when there's a new brewery in your town, you kind of got to go, right? So the last item that I had pre-planned is my thoughts on Gucci Glocks versus factory Glocks, specifically for people who didn't care about the Gucci Glock part. Like if you weren't trying to get a fancy high-end Glock. But I think there's value there. And I think the key is knowing what you're looking for. Because, for example, Zev, among other companies, has some very, very nice guns, but they're expensive. They're not overpriced, in my opinion. You're getting money for value for money. But if you're looking for a basic carry gun, you're still into the $1,500 to $1,800 range, right? That's not cheap. Does it give you anything in the real basic functioning that a basic Glock does not do? No. You can change the sights on a Glock to be a perfectly good system. You are not there's no need for a threaded barrel on a carry gun. You don't need a magwell on a carry gun. Sorry, you don't. You don't need high-rise sights for your scene over your suppressor. You don't need cutouts in your slide. If this is your EDC, those are vanity. Those are pretty. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but you are introducing another way for dirt to get into the gun, for anything to get in the way there. To me, that is, you're trading function for form, and it's an area of function that I'm not too worried about. I don't think it's likely to be a real problem, but And again, the magwell, Wonderful at the range. If you're talking a shit hits the fan situation, great. But if you're talking EDC, we're comparing somebody who's going to buy a basic Glock or a basic SIG or something like that, right? We're not discussing somebody buying a high-end premium firearm for the end of the world. I think that there's still value if you are picky about what you're getting. And Zev seems to be, they're priced out of that market. You've got to want a premium Gucci Glock. And I say that with all due respect, guys. I'm there, okay? I was a 1911 guy before I got into everything else. And let's face it, 1911 started that trend. I mean, you can do whatever you want to in 1911. So Shadow Systems looks at it a different way. Shadow Systems starts at around $800 or $900 and goes up. And at $800 or $900, you are getting a nice Glock frame that fits in Glock holsters. That's key. It's not a P80 kind of frame where it doesn't fit in Glock holsters. You're getting a beaver tail that is not huge and annoying, but protects your hand. Both the Zev and the Shadow Systems, when I pick them up and I point that gun, okay, I'm not seeing my knuckle in the way of that slide. Such a difference. I mean, you have no idea. The confidence that inspires, the ability to shoot in an awkward position and not worry about, did I keep my knuckle down? Because I don't want to be bleeding all over the place. I don't need to get an infection. If we're talking a daily carry gun, I don't need to be cutting myself every time I shoot the gun, right? So say $900, right? So we're at $400 more than the cheapest Glock 19 of a reasonable modern generation. Okay, so I got my little notebook here, and I'm saying $500 for the gun, $550. If you want a Gen 5, I mean, you're at $650 or $700, right? Dollars on a trigger, easy. I mean, that's not going crazy. That's just, just a trigger shoe is like $80. And if you want the whole thing, it's like $100, $150, $200. So call it $150. $200 to $300 if you want a fancy slide, with different kind of cutouts and serrations and blah, 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 like anything. So you can leave that off or you can include that. Power to you either way. But we're including it in the sense that it's part of the package. You're not getting something that looks generic if you do a Shadow Systems. A better barrel. Now, don't get me wrong, factory Glock barrels are not bad, but they don't have the world's best reputation for being premium. They're a basic field service, generic barrel. That's going to be $150, $200. Crappy $75 one, okay, but it's not going to be good. You wouldn't upgrade to the $75 one, right? The $75 ones are for people like me who are doing a P80 build and don't want to put the cheapest piece of shit in there, which is, by the way, I did, and I regret it, but I don't regret it in the sense that I wish I had done something else. I regret it because now I have to replace it, but it was the only thing available at the time. My options were the cheap piece of junk or $200, and I wasn't doing $200. Sights. The factory Glock sights are almost universally hated. They are horrible. They are cheap junk. $100, maybe more, but $100 will get you a set of night sights. And honestly, you can do those yourself. If you have a little Glock tool, if you can't do your own night sights, one of your friends can do them for you. And if not, take it into any kind of basic gunsmith, and they can knock it out in a few minutes. And you can adjust it later. It's literally tap, tap, tap with a hammer and a punch. Just be gentle. And then a magwell of some sort. Don't need it, don't have to have it, but you're going to get one on both Shadow Systems and Zev. I don't think there's anything wrong with having a magwell. I just think that it's one of those things where on a EDC, it's just enhancing the size, and it's going to be more visible. But, oh look, the Shadow Systems one's removable. Um, so you fix the slide bite problem. You got an overall better gun, and the total package is cheaper than if you put it together yourself. If you bought a basic Glock and upgraded it, you would still have spent more than if you got the Shadow Systems. And at that point, you still wouldn't have the better frame. You would still have Glock Bite. Like, it's still there. You haven't fixed issue number one, because honestly, I'm guessing that half the people shooting Glocks, if they're not careful, get bit. Now, maybe not badly, but they get bit. In my case, I don't get bit badly, but I get bit every time. There's no way for me to shoot that gun for more than a couple shots and not have a slice. It is what it is. To the point where what I should probably do is get some modeler's putty and build up that side of the beaver tail on the gun and just force my hand down a little bit. A 1/16 of an inch, not even, would do it. But I don't need to shoot that gun a lot. It doesn't bite me when I dry fire it. Just saying. So yeah, it'd be nice to carry, use it at the range all the time, but that's not what the gun is for. It's not a gun I'm going to shoot constantly. But if I do a Shadow System slide, I probably would. I mean, frame, Shadow Systems frame. I think that price-wise, they are extremely competitive. And I was surprised. I had not expected them to be. I was under the impression that Shadow Systems was going to be just as expensive as Zev and the other, not high-end, but like mid-tier Gucci Glock, not one-offs kind of thing, but production, nice Glocks. And they're not. They're noticeably cheaper, and they're into the price range where, yeah, it's a nice factory gun, but it's not, oh my God, And I will say this, if you are eligible for discounts, if you are someone in the industry, if you are someone in the outdoors world, the military, police, tactical, fire, anything, you know where to go to get a discount on that, right? Yeah, it's a pretty good discount on Shadow Systems. Not on the frames, but on the whole gun. You'll just be waiting. You can't. It isn't like you walk in the store and get one. But yeah, use your expert voice and get your discount. So that's kind of where I'm at. Anybody got anything? I don't want to cut this short, but that was my topics. In totally unrelated news, I've kind of given up on buying a motorcycle right now, but a friend of mine is trying to buy, and he has been tearing his hair out because he's looking used Harleys, and he's trying to keep it cheap. He's just looking for something to cruise around a little bit in town and local, not crushing miles, not doing any real, not long distance stuff. He doesn't need a big cruiser. He's looking for something smaller. And man, he's like, they're either beat to shit, they're a salvage title, or they're crazy money. They want, he's like, I might as well go buy a brand new bike. And he doesn't want to do that. So, well, thank you very much. Take care, all. Have fun. Stay safe. Keep shooting, and wear your gear. Not all the time. I'm not saying you have to live in it, but put it on and just watch some TV. Put it on and watch YouTube. Put it on and make dinner and sit down and have it. It is interesting what you learn about your gear. Today I spent a couple hours with the air conditioning off, windows open, fan going, because it was hot here today, but the breeze was cool. It was kind of nice. And I say cool, it was 80 degrees. Um, but I wore my soft plate carrier and my belt with a pair of shorts, and that was it. I wasn't wearing a shirt. And I learned what areas chafe in different body positions way faster. What areas are going to rub. And I learned, how it was going to feel now that I've lost some weight because it's different. It changes. I also learned I had to tighten my belt up again. My train slash oh shit belt, not the full oh shit one, but the one I use most of the time. I had to take up another inch. I mean, without the belt liner and a heavy pair of pants, it was just falling. It was not staying in place. So good problems to have. I'm not going to complain about it. Still holding off ordering new belts because I keep losing weight. At some point, I'll stabilize again, but you know, I'm right now. I'm at the middle of a size, and if I go down much further, I'm going to be at the upper end of the next size, and I'd rather wait and see if that happens. So, ciao, guys. Don't forget to go to the other video and put in your entry. Just got a comment.